I'm Anne Akiko Meyers, and this is Living the Classical Life.
And probably the most antioxidants too. So I always think that I'm, making my skin radiant. You debuted at the age of 12 with the New York Philharmonic with Zubin Mehta. Did you realize at that time how extraordinary that was?
No. But I was growing up in California at the time, and I was on a wide variety of television shows out there, like The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I was on twice, and That's Incredible, and Those Amazing Animals. No. I was also playing with the LA Philharmonic when I was 11. So I kind of had a steady diet of performing and doing lots of local competitions and playing lots of chamber music.
Did you have an awareness of a sense of pressure or a need to succeed and do well at that early age? Did you get nervous?
Yes, definitely. And I still, to this day, get nervous before any performance. It doesn't matter where I play. It helps me, and it helps my performance, I think, be elevated in a way.
Is it possible that your greatest moments on stage in performance happen because of that presence of an audience and the extra adrenaline?
Yes, the audience really they're everything to making a performance great. I mean, without the audience, I had a rehearsal once at Carnegie Hall, and I looked out, and way in the last row were my parents.
How did that make you feel?
And I was like, that is just so funny. They look way like Ziggy, in the back, like hanging. And I was like, wow, in 1 hour, this hall is going to be packed with people. And it was electric. I mean, it was just so thrilling to be on stage, and you felt that electricity in the audience. And it was like, yeah, it was amazing.
Is that something that you crave while you're off stage? It's like you've got this great experience at Carnegie Hall.
I need a permanent audience wherever I'm walking. It's like, oh yes, I
can't wait to go back to that. Or maybe it's something that you need to pace yourself and just say, okay, I can only do that a few times a year.
It's really special when it happens, for sure. But wherever you play, you just never know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so exciting. I mean, that's the problem with classical music and musicians. You're always as great as your last performance.
Yes, that's right. I always think of my bio and CV. If I list that in my program, I said, well, that's great, but if I play badly tonight, none of that actually matters.
So we're always striving, you're striving, and I think that's where we are just always, sadly, we're perfectionists, and
What's one of the strangest things that ever happened on stage?
oh, so many. Wow. I was playing the vieux temps, a violin concerto, and there's a big cadenza, and I was playing in Grant Park in Chicago, and it's an outdoor amphitheater, and at that moment, a helicopter decided to hover right above the stage while I was playing the cadenza. And I was like, okay, what do? Do I just wait for the helicopter to move, or are they enjoying the performance from up there, or like what should I do? But I just went on, and another time where a bee was going around my head, and I was playing Prokofiev 2.
And do you freak out with bees?
Bees, insects, anything, mosquito. I mean, I've been attacked on stage. It's outdoors, you never know what's going to happen. But the bee, I was like, okay, maybe I could just like move it with the bow. Play faster. Dun, 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 dun.
Musicians and their neuroses. I was just recently reading that Tchaikovsky here in New York City, when Carnegie Hall opened and he conducted the inaugural concert, he had reached a point in his life that he was so afraid that his head would fall off when he was conducting, that he conducted that entire concert holding up his head with his chin and conducting with his right hand. So you just wonder, how does that happen? But these different things that happen. Did the helicopter eventually move?
It did.
Yeah. And conversely, what's one of the best things that ever happened on stage? Something that strikes you as that was a moment that I want to hang on to?
Well, a couple come to mind. A moment when I was pregnant with my second child, and I was touring Japan, and my whole family was with me, and I felt little Andy constantly moving shifting in my belly as I was playing Mozart concerto. And I was like, wow, that's not going to last forever. I mean, that is just such a special, unique feeling. And also, when I performed the Barber Concerto with the Orpheus, and my entire family, they all came, and all my friends, everyone, it was like I got married all over again. It was just everyone came for that performance, and it was just so special to see everyone there and supporting me, and that was really awesome.
So for you, performing for, as it were, a hometown audience would be the best possible scenario, because I know that there were certain performers, one of them being Glenn Gould when he was still performing, he said to perform at home for him was the most stressful thing, because everyone knew him at his best, and he would have to at least reach that level. And sometimes, for me, it goes to, if my family and friends are there, I feel an incredible support, but I also do know that I have to not screw it up.
I mean, lots of times my husband says, oh, if you need to play through something, you could just play it for me, or, and I'm like, too scared. I can't play it for you. Sorry, I love you, but I can't play it for you.
You've now premiered works by over 20 contemporary composers. How do you make new music engaging and enjoyable for audiences that might sometimes be reluctant to venture out of the standards?
Well, thankfully, you can really thank the composers that I've worked with to write amazing music that has been very accessible, and everyone has their unique writing style, but I just thrive on working with living composers because their language is so respectful of tradition, but it's current. It's the language of today. And especially like recently, I've been touring Mason Bates' violin concerto throughout the country, and his language is so unique and it's all to, his amazing talent. And he just wrote his first violin concerto that I premiered, and it was the first concerto for any instrument. So that collaborative process of working together with him was so fascinating, to explain the limitations of the technical aspects of performing, or just how he normally works with electronica, but he decided to be purely acoustic and not use electronica for the violin concerto, and so he made the orchestra, which he's always said the orchestra is the world's largest synth or synthesizer. We sounded like electronica. You know, we kind of reenacted the electronica sound.
And what was the audience response?
Wild. They just can't get enough of Mason, and it's just so exciting to play his concerto. It's 30 minutes with no stops, and it's just like running a marathon to the end, you know. And there's a really interesting story that surrounds it too, about this hybrid dinosaur that takes flight. And so I'm this dinosaur that starts kind of Godzilla-esque, and then I'm supposed to be walking through a swamp, but in a very sensuous manner in the second movement, so I'm a sexy dinosaur.
Is that indicated in the score?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does he have a piano concerto?
Well, you got to get him to write one.
Yeah.
Let's work on that.
Yeah.
I know he just wrote a cello concerto that I listened to, and really, he's just such an incredible composer.
These magical moments that happen on stage, do you sometimes envision them when you're in the practice room as a way to be more goal-oriented? The reason I ask is it doesn't seem like all musicians can always feel inspired on a daily basis with practicing. Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy practicing?
Yes, I crave practice. Like when I can't practice, that's when I want to do it the most, of course. This is the human nature side of it. And when I can practice, I totally don't want to be practicing, you know. But every day, if I don't practice, my day does not feel complete. It just does not feel right. And I sit in my car and I drive to different errands, and that's a really great place for me to actually study scores, is in my car. I love the stereo in it, and I just pump up the volume, and I'm just, you know, like cruising. But if I'm sitting in back of anyone on the road, I'm gonna steamroll them. So I'm not a very patient driver, that's for sure.
Maybe that's the outlet for all the aggression that wanted to come out when you were patiently practicing. You mentioned in an interview in 1991 that you characterized... I'm digging up the information. You described something that was very interesting, which was that your work as a performer is 99% frustration and 1% joy. What?
Okay, I take that one back. Wow, what was that in?
I don't even remember where I found that, but it sounds like you've revised your view on that. So where do you stand now?
98% frustration, 2% joy. I wonder what frame of mind I was in back in 1991. That was only 100 years ago in my life. I think at that time, I was playing about 120 concerts, and I just signed on with RCA Red Seal, and I was coming out with the Lalo Symphony Espagnole and Bruch's Scottish Fantasy, and things were just moving really quickly, really, really super fast. But, you know, that was a time where, you know, talking about touring and touring alone, there was no internet back then. There was no signing CDs at intermission time, or you know, really connecting with your audience. And you know, I was even sitting, I hate to say, I have to admit, I was sitting in the smoking section, you know, like where they had the curtain in the plane, you know.
I still
like,
remember those days.
Like
smoking on planes. Yes.
Like, what was that, you know? I had already graduated from Juilliard a year prior to that, and I was traveling nonstop. And so I think I was, back then, I was very, very
there's no class that tells you what touring life is going to be like for a solo concert violinist or a pianist. There's just no one out there that could share that information.
Was there ever a point in your life where you doubted whether this was the right decision?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How did you deal with that?
Actually, it happened right as I was getting the Avery Fisher Career Grant, and I was 23, and I was questioning if I should continue. And I stepped away from the violin, and I talked to my parents, and I was like, what should I do? And they said, you need to go back to school. I mean, that's the place you're going to be able to hopefully figure it out. And I decided not to touch the violin, not to practice, not to hear music, not to do anything, just nothing. And I survived that for 4 weeks before I was finally just haunted in my dreams, and I missed it so deeply. It was really, it's hard to explain how you're almost cutting off a part of your soul,
What did you do during those 4 weeks?
I traveled. I traveled, and I just read and went places, and just questioned a lot, and couldn't shake the feeling like I was just drawn and magnetized by music, and I needed to open up the case, and I needed to touch the violin, and I needed to hear myself play music again. Like that was what would nurture me and kind of regenerate me.
Lastly, what are your musical dreams? Are there still projects that you wish to take on?
Yeah, I really thrive with projects, and the ideas come to me in such a variety of different ways, and so whenever I am just struck by a thought of, wow, this might be interesting, or I would love to commission this composer to write something, that's how they come together, the projects come together. And right now I'm in the process of learning 10 brand new arrangements that are going to be world premieres, written by 5 different arrangers of the American Songbook. And they're just extraordinary. That it's just so rich, that period of time in history, 1930, 1940, and also the Bernstein Serenade, just going back to, studying that and recording that. And also I've commissioned Ratavara to write a piece, and I heard he's wrapped it up, and so I'm just cannot wait to hear how that's going to be as well.
And we'll all look forward to hearing that.
So yeah, it's a constant process that's motivates me continually.
We thank you so much for being on the show. This has been so exciting. Thank you for sharing
Thank you so
insights
much.
into your life and into your music, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Yes.